even some people that I know. So good evening. Yeah. There's the wave back. Thank you.
To be clear, I was waving at Eliza, John.
Hello, everyone. It looks like we might have everyone in the room, but we'll wait just another few seconds before we do introductions. Hopefully you can already read. My name is John Lewis. I'm the one speaking right now. And I am the Director of Student Activities here at Alfred U. So we're thrilled that you're all joining us tonight. I see some students and some parents. Making some notes on people that might be able to field some questions. So great. Well, we don't want to waste too much time here. Then I think everyone that was in the waiting room is now into the Zoom room. So welcome again to another exciting evening of Zooming with both President Zupan as well as some of our staff members here at Alfred U. Again, my name's John Lewis. I am the Director of Student Activities here at Alfred, and thrilled to have you with us tonight. We're going to begin with President Zupan. But just before that, let me point out a few other faces that are probably familiar. Our Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Kimberly Geyer. Kim, hello to you tonight. Tamara Kenny, our Dean of Students, new this year as our Dean of Students. So what a year to come aboard. We're thrilled to have you, Tamara.
Thank you.
Jess Madaw is our Director of the Public Safety Office. I see she's in the room. John Dietrich in charge of our dining services. Also Alice Halloran, from Residence Life. And I see Michael Kozlowski is here. Tony Aquilina is here. There's a few people, familiar faces. So they may end up getting a few questions tonight. But before we go any further, let's open it up to President Zupan, who I know has some opening remarks and a hello for us.
Hey, John. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Happy New Year. We're looking forward to having our students back on campus. Some of you are already here. We had a few join us this past weekend, but the lion's share of you will be coming back this coming weekend on the 16th and 17th. We're moving you back in by residence halls. There's been a change due to CDC and state health guidelines into quarantining requirements for individuals coming back to a situation like ours in an educational setting and more broadly applicable to other organizations. So we're going to be requiring a negative test coming in, with the test having been taken ideally within the last 72 hours, PCR being preferred, but antigen test also permissible. And then we're going to be going through at least a 3-day quarantine with each of you, doing a second test through the Upstate Medical Center, a similar saliva-based test to what we were doing in the fall. We anticipate a turnaround of 24 hours like we were witnessing in the fall. If there's a positive pool, we'll be doing reflex testing for the first few weeks through the Upstate Medical Center, and then requiring an additional technology to allow us to more quickly test individuals, so we don't have to wait another 24 hours to see who in a positive pool's actually positive. Once we get through the initial 2 weeks, classes in person are expected to start on the 25th. We're going to be doing surveillance testing. We're raising the percentage of students that we're going to be asking to do surveillance testing each week, at least 20%. The extent to which it's above 20% will depend on the extent of athletic activities, because there are different additional testing requirements depending on if it's a high contact sport, medium contact sport, low contact sport. So we're working with Paul Vecchio, Tony, our coaches, athletic department, and wellness center, and our league to phase those in. We're also introducing testing, surveillance testing for faculty staff, and the target is 20% each week. We've already had some faculty staff get vaccinated as of January 4th if they belong to the Hook and Ladder Company. So individuals in the healthcare field Vaccination started then. We found out on Monday, every instructor that's involved with learning at K through 12 and at the college level is also now able to be vaccinated. And as of Monday, it was also individuals 75 years and over. That got modified within the last day to individuals 65 years and older. The vaccines are being shipped out unless held in reserve for a second shot, and also individuals with underlying conditions. The challenge, though, is there are quite a few million people now trying to get that vaccine, and the distribution to the different points that are going to be providing the vaccinations. We have been granted the ability to give vaccinations, but we don't have any guaranteed supply yet on campus. We're still waiting for clarification from the state on timing. The pharmacy in Alfred is also one of the 500 pharmacies that's been given the go-ahead to provide vaccinations. So we're watching that closely. For faculty, staff, they'll have to display proof that they are instructors in person. We're also hoping to obtain the same ability to vaccinate for employees that are in regular contact in our campus setting. So individuals in residence life, student affairs more broadly, so that they can also be safe and we can promote safety more broadly. Same safety protocols applies in the fall. So even if you're vaccinated, you still can transmit the virus. So at least for the spring semester, personal hygiene, socially distancing, masking, it's going to be critical for all of us to keep those protocols in play until we get more broad herd immunity through a combination of vaccines and unfortunately the rate of spread in our community. And I guess we'll just close with great gratitude to our students for rising to the occasion in the fall. You might have seen in a communication, our board did a thank you for our employees. They got a turkey, a ham, or a vegan option for Thanksgiving. They've recently also said we'd like to do something for the students. And there was a student project in Pam Schultz's class on a branding mask for Alfred University. Because of the amount of money that the trustees gave us at the end of the fall, in addition to the Thanksgiving gift for employees, it's going to be able to cover providing each student with one of those specially designed branded masks. So that's in process, and we're looking forward to working with Student Senate to get to those masks. We look forward to answering questions you have, and most of all, we're very much looking forward to having you back and hope you've had a safe winter break.
And thank you, Mark. And I will say, I probably should have mentioned this before Mark spoke, that we will take questions. What will allow you to turn your mute off and ask some questions. But I did see some coming in already in the chat, so we'll address those as well. And it just so happens that the first one that I noticed, or the first one that did come through, asked about those shuttles this weekend. And I've been organizing those. So let me take that one really quick. We do have Rochester shuttles coming in from the Rochester airport. There are 4 of them this weekend, 2 on Saturday and 2 again on Sunday. And we have almost 20 students signed up for those. So students who might either be flying into the Rochester airport or will somehow be able to be in Rochester to get to campus. But I also want to bring up the page that is shared here in the chat early on has a link to a New York City bus. It's a Coach USA bus that's coming from Port Authority on Sunday. And that will be for our New York City, greater New York City based students who are able to come. That leaves Port Authority Sunday at 9 a.m. So there's still room on that. And we encourage any students from the city area, if it's easier to do that, that's a good opportunity. So I know there's some more coming in. Do we have someone that would want to just get us started? And we're going to allow us to, again, to take yourself off mute and we'll let you get started here.
John, before we do that, we've got a few questions. I can't come on the specified move-in date. What do I do? That's been something that our residence life staff has received by email. Alice, do you want to tackle that, or Tamara?
We're asking our students to really do the best that they can to arrive on their assigned move-in day. There's a lot of planning that goes into bringing our students back safely, and arriving on that day will help us to make sure that the quarantine stays intact, and that we are able to test accordingly. Now, if you're not able to, for some reason, you can work with myself or Tamara Kenny, the Dean of Student Wellbeing, so that we can come up with some sort of solution. For emergencies we recognize come up, and so we are more than willing to try to assist. But we're really asking you, if it's a matter of, if you have to maybe call out of work that day, leave work a day early just to make sure that you arrive on your assigned move-in day, where we recognize that's a sacrifice, but we thank you for doing that. So if you have any specific situations, please email myself or Tamara.
And there was a question too about for sick students or quarantining, for faculty being mindful of online options so that you can keep up. Same procedures for the fall. We think we've now improved the system too without violating HIPAA laws. How do we make sure we more quickly let our faculty know that you're going to be out of commission for the next several days? And they can draw whatever inference, whether it's COVID or not, but they can keep in touch with you. We've expanded the quarantining space and the space available for isolation because we anticipate it's going to be a more important issue with the greater prevalence of the virus in the community this spring semester. If somebody arrives after 6 p.m., do they go to public safety, Alice?
Yes, if we recognize that if you're traveling long distances, that kind of thing, you absolutely, yeah. If you arrive past 6 p.m., your key will be left for you at public safety.
Kim or Tamara, do you want to tackle? There's some questions here. You don't get the test results back. You've taken the test, but there's a lag in your area. What happens?
Students should still return to campus on their designated day. We'll have you move in, and once those test results come to you, we'd ask you just to upload those to the Wellness Center. We do know that many students will be taking their test within the 3-day window that we've asked, but due to lab capability or how many tests they're running, they may not get them as quickly as possible. So we still ask you to return on your assigned day and then get those test results to us as soon as possible.
And Mark, I'm not sure who might want to address this. I do see a question in the chat about the 1 hour rule. I know it was the student writes, at the end of the semester, my MBA classes were moved all online due to the 1 hour rule. Is that still in effect for the beginning of this semester?
Our county Department of Health, any class 60 minutes and above, they've required quarantining if there's a positive case in that class. We haven't been able to move them. It's one of the most stringent county health departments in the state, which is good in certain ways, but it's strained our quarantining capacity in the fall at times. So we've tried to be as mindful of that and how long the classes are scheduled for this spring. But there's certain smaller classes where the hands-on experience is harder to replicate in under 60 minutes. So we're just, the faculty and deans have been mindful of that, and fundamentally the County Department of Health guidelines haven't changed. And the 1 hour rule is if you're in a class where somebody ends up testing positive, everybody in that class has to quarantine. One of the changes since the fall, the amount of days you have to quarantine without symptoms is now 10 days as opposed to 14 days.
John, there's a question about family members moving students in. Alice, do you want to tackle that one? It's mentioned that we have 30 minutes to move our students in. Are parents allowed in the dorms to help? And what happens if we exceed the 30 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are asking, similar to in the fall, that only one parent join our students in moving into their residence hall, though the parent will, or family member or whoever, the helper, will also be screened at public as they enter the building, you know, to get the keys and whatnot. We don't expect you to be, you know, superhuman and move everything in a half an hour. Those windows are just so we can know what time you're coming for us to hand you your keys. You know, you do have still a reasonable amount of time, you know, as long as, you know, you're off campus within a few hours. If it takes you a little bit longer, that's okay. But just mainly to control the traffic that comes into the Joyce and Walton Center. So you're not limited to a half an hour to move in, but you're limited to that time frame to come get your key from us.
And there's a question related to that, Alice, about a time frame for moving in. I know you sent the sign up links to students. I think that was yesterday.
That was last night, yeah.
Last night. So students should check their email for an email from Alice so that they can sign up. And that includes the specific hours. It's 10 to 6 with 30-minute windows.
Yep, it came from Residence Life. So ask your students to check their email and look for a Res Life email from us.
And Tamara, there's a question about getting the emails for daily screenings. I don't know if Sue is on this call, so do you want to talk about that?
Yes, unfortunately, Sue couldn't get on the call due to technical issues.
Okay.
The daily screenings have begun, where we are encouraging students to be filling them out so you get into the habit, because once you arrive on campus, you will need to fill those out. We'll be following the same procedures we did in the fall semester. The Wellness Center will be checking daily screenings for any student who might have symptoms, contacting those students and checking in on them. If students fail to do their screening for 2 days in a row, you'll be getting a message from me to remind you to please do your daily screening. We really hope that students will make this a part of their morning process, that you get up, you do your daily screening, you brush your teeth, you go to class, that kind of thing.
In terms of sports, our league right now is planning to start competitions March 1st. And then we had a call yesterday, and the plan is to start practices February 8th. Really important to get the first 2 weeks off to a good start. So we're going to try to limit the number of gatherings until we're sure that there's not a level of virus in the community that would cause us to change direction. A number of the peers in our league, for example, Nazareth, decided to shift back their start date. Other schools in the area like Lemoyne and Syracuse both shifted back 2 weeks. We decided not to change the timetable, that the train was already on the tracks. You guys were making plans to come back, but us and the other schools are very much going to be looking, let's get the first 2 weeks off to a good start, because if we can't do that, then it jeopardizes the rest of the season. Right now, we're still planning on all sports, but we saw something from the governor last week that he may not allow winter sports. That hasn't been confirmed, and we're just going to keep monitoring it. The big things that have changed since November is we've had much higher levels of virus in the community. Positive testing rates right now across the state are about 9 times what they were at the beginning of the fall semester. And so they haven't abated since the uptick that started in November. And that's what people are watching most closely. If it continues, to what extent vaccines start to kick in and start to help abate it. And as much as possible, somebody asked this with classes, if the faculty have the capacity in their classrooms to deliver simultaneously online and in person, we'll do that. But not all of our classrooms are equipped to be able to do that. So we've been trying to maximize so you're not sitting in your room with nothing to do and not using that time productively. And we've also tried at the state level. There hasn't been a documented case of transmission in an actual classroom setting, so long as everybody's masked up. So classrooms and supervised gatherings like athletics, the schools in New York have used the argument that don't diminish those because they're actually more safer than other things campus community members might be doing if they aren't in class or if they aren't in supervised athletic training. So far, though, we haven't been able to move the needle with the state on their requirement on that, or our county.
And I also see there was a question about dining and related to, will it be similar to last semester? And I know we have the Director of Dining Services here, John Dietrich. John, would you mind commenting about the dining halls and even maybe with what's happening once students come to campus, please?
Yeah, I see. I was noticing a couple questions there. We are making some changes to a few things. Some of it's schedule. When we started back in the fall, we were extending hours in aid, which really made it difficult because we also, with the Get app, we're trying to pull people out of aid for more, so social distancing was much easier. That kind of had a negative effect because now we have to keep food available and ready and nobody really coming in all the time. It was really not busy in aid. So we're changing how we're doing things there. We've adjusted the hours. We've actually extended them overall because we're going to use the Met more, which you can use an aid swipe there. That'll be actually open till 10 o'clock each night. Aid will be closing earlier at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. So we actually added some hours there. They'll be able to use the Get app, which I think most students really like. Towards the end of the semester, we did add pizza back at aid. We did make some changes, and our executive chef, Jason, is making some other changes. So there will be more options. We were doing like very little or limited bars. We're going to extend them now because we're seeing that there's no real concern of people, so many people in the dining hall that it would take a long time to get those things. So you will see a difference in aid for sure. Again, some extended hours through using the Met. So that's that. When you come in on the 16th and 17th at the Joyce Center, you'll pick up a boxed meal. It's a turkey sandwich or vegan. That's really all the choices we have at that point. And then the next day, you'll start seeing 2 deliveries a day at your residence halls. You'll have some choices there as well. We're going to create a pantry with breakfast and snacks and beverages, and then just deliver lunch and dinner each day. We do have some issues with some, and Alice can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have 6 residence houses that don't have refrigeration for us to store things like milk and yogurts and stuff. So the breakfast in Phillips, Bedenick, Schultz, Cannon, Ann's house, and Kenyon will be basically shelf-stable items, cereals. I really suggest, especially when you come in, they're only going to get 1 meal from us the day you move in. So eat before you get here or bring something with you. And if you can give them some breakfast items, get them through the week, that would be helpful also. Again, if they have a refrigerator in their area. Did I get all those questions? I thought there was a third one. I don't
Get app as well, John.
Yeah, we're still using the Get app. That worked very well for us. It really spread out. We usually do 50, a normal semester, we do 56 to 58% of our meals in aid hall. And we did 28 there, 28% this year. They were all spread out because they can use their aid swipes also over there for piazza. So we're trying to make it fit the dining plan. So we didn't want to change the dining plan. So aid meals can be used in other areas. And that all part seemed to work very well. We do know we struggled in aid to really provide good choices. The salad bar is non-existent. Well, it was non-existent. Then we created we reopened it, but everything's packaged. So you basically grab a plastic thing full of lettuce that has a lid on it, and then all your toppings and other ingredients, and you have to make your own. So we think that worked pretty well. Again, but always, reach out to us if you're not finding what you need, especially in Aid Hall, because the other areas are essentially the same food all the time. And it's, Freshens, Piazza, and Met are popular areas.
And John, 2 other questions. Will Saxon swipes be replenished? And number 2, if somebody wants to change the name on their Get app, how can they contact you?
Yes, they can contact me on changing the name. The Saxon swipes do not carry over. Dining dollars do, as long as you have a plan this semester, in the spring semester. But what the things are, really just contact me if you're having trouble and you're running low on dining, Saxon swipes especially. We can work something out.
And Tamara or Alice, is the kitchen going to be open in Oppenheim?
It is beautiful. I was there yesterday to check on some things, and it is glorious. And so, yes, you'll be able to use it when you return. We're excited to have that open for you.
We're still ending the spring semester 2 on schedule, and right now graduation commencement is as scheduled. So we have added, as per student input and student senate in particular, 2 rejuvenation days. While there's no spring break, there are 2 middle of the week days for mental health and well-being and to catch up. And we're going to try to be mindful of snow days too. This hasn't been a good year for snow, but right now we're looking to aim set a record for least amount of snowfall. But if we get some snow, we'll try to use that as a way to rejuvenate.
And I see the newest comment coming in asking about quarantining if one roommate tests positive and the other does not. Would that be Tamara?
Sure. So if any student tests positive in the second round of testing, we'll be following the same protocol that we did last semester and placing that student in temporary housing for either isolation or quarantine until that student has been released by the Wellness Center or the Allegheny Department of Health. So it'll be very similar to last semester.
Great, thank you.
John, I see Katie has a question. She has her hand raised.
Oh, yes. Please, Katie. I'd love to hear from some people.
Is it unmuted? Oh, I'm sorry. That's my husband has the question.
Oh.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. Y'all can go on.
Okay.
I see a question.
Well, feel free to raise those hands, though.
Yeah, I see another dining question. Yes, we'll have the changes we're making and the new hours up on the website by next week.
The last day of school should be on the website, right, Kim?
Yeah, on the academic calendar.
My daughter's roommate has chosen not to return. Will my daughter get a new roommate, or will she be alone? Alice, Tamara?
So I'm finalizing some housing assignments today and tomorrow. At this point, you know, depending on where your student lives, they may receive a roommate if their side, you know, if the room is ready to receive a roommate. So if you have any questions or concerns, if your student receives any sort of email from Residence Life letting them know they get a roommate, please contact me with any of the concerns that you have.
And how about Alexandria? You have your hand raised, and then we'll kind of move down the line here. But if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I was curious if a student is in a class where somebody happens to get sick, if they're able to get a test within like the 5-day period that has been shown that like if you get symptoms, you're going to get symptoms in 5 days, can they then return to class without taking 10 days if they get tested and it's negative?
Yeah, great question, Alexander. We were hoping that that would be the case, but the county hasn't given us that leeway. And you're exactly right. You usually get symptoms within 5 days, but it's still going to be the 10-day rule.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And let's go to, I believe, Eliza. I thought I saw the name next, or hand next. So Eliza.
Which one? I think there's
yes.
two.
Yep, you.
Okay, I just wanted to re-clarify about the break/mental health days. I don't know if, I'm gonna try to write it down real quick. I just didn't catch what was said before about what was going on with that, because I know it was an issue for a lot of people last semester, really struggling with mental health because of the lack of a mental break in this semester.
On the calendar, you'll see a day in March, a Wednesday, as well as Kim, is a Thursday in April.
I will look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it, sorry.
No worries, thanks for asking.
Thank you, Eliza. And I think Kylie Simpkins is next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So COVID testing is pretty expensive, especially for people who may not have health insurance. So for people who maybe need a little bit of extra help, will Alfred U be helping out and paying for those COVID tests that are required to come back to school?
So I can take this one, John. So I'd really encourage you to contact your local health department and see if there's any clinics in the area. If after you've tried that and tried local pharmacies and you still can't get a test, please contact me directly and we'll figure something out for you. But you do need to do that as soon as possible because we're getting close to that 3-day window of move-in. So you can email me or give me a call and we'll figure something out for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And there is an emergency fund for students who might be in a financial hardship situation where they cannot afford the cost of the test. The funding is limited, of course, but if a student is in that situation, they should email, and I actually put this in the chat, email Emma McDowell, and her email is mcdowelle@alfred.edu, and we can look into that request for emergency funding. And the rejuvenation days are Tuesday, March 2nd and Wednesday, April 14th.
Great, and I see Tiana had her hand raised.
Hi, I wanted to ask, well, I wrote it in the chat, but I'm pretty sure nobody got to it yet. I wanted to ask if graduation is planned to be like in person, like on the football field or something, or is it gonna be virtual?
We are hoping that it's in person. But it very much depends on what the virus situation is like by May. And we may well go with an option where it's the football field or something larger like Jericho Hill, if need be. But then what do you do in terms of family and how many could we accommodate, or is it just for the graduates? But right now the plan is still in person and on time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, one more question. So for like our mental health days, somebody might have answered this before, but does that mean like not having to go into class on that day? Like what exactly does it mean?
No classes, correct.
Okay, perfect.
And I believe, I don't know if it was Tamara or Alice before, you're right next to each other on my screen. I believe had said, if a student hasn't received their negative test yet, you will still allow them, or we will still allow them on campus, but they need to get that negative test to you as soon as possible.
That was Tamara, yeah. That's
okay.
Yep. If a student, we recognize that the length to receive results is increasing. So we're just asking that you upload your proof of test and return to campus and quarantine. And then once you get those results, to upload them and let us know that you have those results.
John, I'm wondering if maybe you and Alice can address the question about activities during those 2 periods of quarantine. folks are concerned about not having anything to do during that.
Yeah, great. Alice, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
So your RAs will be out and about, you know, during meals and those kinds of things, and trying to get to know their residents and saying hello. You know, so we have some of those things they want to focus on, you know, fun activities, things like that. Keeping in mind we still do need to socially distance ourselves. So they may be doing some fun online things with you, those kinds of things.
Great, and thanks for going first, Alice, because then I was able to look up some of those things we've been working on through our office. And I've also been able to Zoom with the Student Activities Board, e-board, over the last 2 weeks. And we're talking about doing some virtual events, like we have a virtual Kahoot game coming up. We also have some virtual Jackbox nights, but also something it's called Among Us. I think the students play that from time to time. We're in with all of those things. Yes, you'll be doing it maybe from your room and virtually, but if you're winning prizes, we'll make sure we get those prizes out to you within those days when we come to, or maybe you swing by our office when you are able to move around campus more freely. But we're definitely not going to leave people hanging. And I also will put my email in, because I always say my job's not to come up with these things. I've never played Among Us, but I know the students were talking about it before they left. So those are things that I wouldn't know about unless it was for the students. So give me some more ideas too.
Several questions. When you're in quarantine, can you go out and walk, run, walk your dog or pet? Tamara, you want to tackle that one?
Oh, I'm sorry. If folks have service animals or, sorry, I'm losing my voice at this hour, or emotional support animals, we will work with you so that you can go outside for a short period of time to take care of your animal.
And how about just walking or running, so long as you stay socially distanced?
Yeah, that's a great question. During the time that we're quarantining, we are going to restrict students from going out for a walk or a run as much as possible, because we really do want to keep that quarantine in place. Students will be asked to stay in their room for the most part, but will be coming down by hall to pick up their meals, I believe twice a day. So we're going to try to do that. Also, if folks need things, they should contact their RA, and they can be escorted down to get some snacks that might be in the pantries that are there.
And just to add to that, we are following the state guidelines on quarantine. So that's really what drives the options there, or the lack thereof. We have to follow their direction.
John, I think Lori had a question.
Oh, yes, please.
I was just on the subject of what the kids can do during the time that they're quarantined. I'm sending some Mad Libs books with my daughter Jessie. And we're also working on writing some Mad Libs stories based on Alfred and on students there, and just getting some ideas going. And hopefully she will be working with her friends once she gets there to spend some time actually writing some stories, some Mad Libs stories that she can then share with other friends. She's a very creative person, so I think she'll come up with some good ideas.
Great, thanks, Lori. Yeah, to be able to get a little more specific is perfect. Also reminds me of, there's an online Scattergories and some games like that too that are a little more of a throwback, but that students should still be able to participate in an odd time.
Kim, do you or John want to, we've had some questions, meal delivery for the first 3 days, and then what happens after that?
Yeah, I'll mention that as students move in, they will be given dinner for that night. So they'll pick up the first meal when they're going through the move-in process. And then Tony, do you want to talk about meal deliveries for after that?
Sure. So meals will be delivered twice a day, lunch and dinner. It's my understanding, and John, jump in and feel free to add on or interrupt me at any point. Breakfasts as well as a pantry of snacks will also be loaded into every residence hall. So if students are hungry between those dinner, lunch, and breakfast meals, that they can certainly supplement with that pantry and with those snack options as well.
Right, and the meals, because we don't know how many people have microwaves, essentially the lunch and dinner is about 3/4 of it will be boxed meals. Our company does a great job. We have a commissary, they're making them up probably tomorrow. There'll be some choices there as they come in. So lunch will be all boxed lunches, cold sandwiches, and fruit and sides in there. And then dinner will be a combination of microwavable meals and a different choice for sandwiches that night, a little more upscale box lunch. So kind of how the meals are going to go. And one thing we should say is we've got a system set up. If there's any issues, especially dietary issues, because we're having some issues getting that information, dietary issues or just anything to do with the meals at all, whether it's delivery or whatever, please talk to your RA or RD. They're going to have a form that they're going to fill out that Tony and myself and the rest of my team will check every day. And if it's something you need, even if it's something you need, kind of right away. I mean, if you need it that minute, that's a different story, but get that information to your RA. They're going to upload it. We're going to go through those several times a day and figure out and get you what you need.
And some questions, if we have to send people home and go online if there's too much prevalence, we will in all likelihood use the prorated refund approach we used in the spring. What we don't know yet is the second stimulus bill that ended up being passed just a few weeks ago by Congress and approved by the president. We don't know yet. There's a piece in there for higher education, but the specific parameters we're going to have to live by. Half of the $2 million we received earlier in 2020 was a direct pass through to students to help with COVID-related costs, and half was to the university to deal with the COVID-related costs. Right now, we don't know what the split and, again, the parameters for the distribution.
I see a hand actually raised, Dorsey D.
Yeah, I have two questions. First question is, after the student returns to campus and quarantine, are they going to be restricted to campus, or will they be able to leave, to go to local stores or eateries? And my second question is, what is the procedure for a student if they're in their room and they begin to, feel symptomatic, not feel well? What should they do?
That's a great question. Once students have been cleared by the Wellness Center at the end of the after the second quarantine, they will be free to move about as they like to go to a store or run into Walmart or to Wegmans. We still will be following, as we did in the fall, the 60-mile radius rule. We do want people to stay close to campus. If students need to leave campus because they have an emergency, we just ask those students to contact me directly so that we know we have students going off campus. And I'm sorry, I forgot your second question.
If a student is feeling sick,
yes.
What should they do?
Sure. If a student is feeling sick during the period of quarantine, they will have, we will be handing out a flyer to everyone with the phone number to the Wellness Center. If they feel like they need an ambulance because they're more sick than just feeling like they have a cold, they should contact the Wellness Center or dial public safety, and they will facilitate getting an ambulance for that student to go to the hospital. Okay.
Tamara, how about family visitors to campus? There was a question.
Yeah, I saw a question about guest policy and family visitors. We are again going to follow the fall procedures that we had in place, as we were pretty successful in the fall. So we are going to limit the number of guests going into the residence halls. So if you're coming up to meet your student, maybe to take them out to dinner for lunch or out to dinner for their birthday, we just ask that you meet outside, that you don't enter the residence hall, as we're trying to protect that bubble. The same is true for the guest policy. We are still going to follow the guest policy that we put in place in the fall that indicated that you could not visit each other in your residence hall room. After the first 2 weeks, we'll reevaluate that, and we have been considering allowing students to visit within the same residence hall. Again, not going to a different residence hall, but staying within the same residence hall so we can keep that bubble intact and keep student as safe as we possibly can.
And I do see we had at least 2 questions about the parking passes.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could talk about, but is Jess available to talk about that?
I don't know, but I do know that folks can go onto the public safety website and order your parking pass, which will be delivered to you. We do know that during the time of quarantine, students are not going to be able to go put a sticker on their car. So we will be, public safety is aware of that, and most likely will not be ticketing that first week, but we do need to have everyone park in a spot that they're supposed to be parking in. So they can't, so that it's really important that folks do park in the parking lots.
And Tamara, if they had a parking pass in the fall, is that pass still valid in the spring?
That's a great question. John is saying yes.
Yes. Yep. Yep. It should be. They last for a year.
And I see from our Go Bills participant, and this is probably a question for Tony. How much are the Bills going to win by on Saturday?
I'm not making those predictions on record here, Mark.
Okay. It only needs to be one.
I think that we've gotten most, if not all, of the questions in the chat. Although actually, as I'm saying this, more continue to come in. So I know we have about 10 minutes left for our scheduled time. So does anyone want to, oh, I see Maria just raised her hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. My daughter on campus last year, or last semester, received several COVID tests and they were covered, and she got negatives and everything. But I was wondering, is there a plan in place to vaccinate the students when vaccines become available?
Yes, but the specifics still need to be worked out. Right now, we don't know the exact time that that'll start. We're anticipating later in the spring. We've been approved to be a vaccine site, but right now we don't have any guarantee of supply, just even for starting for employees and those individuals that are 65 years and older or have underlying health conditions. So as soon as we get more, we'll put out the information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the underlying conditions will apply, we believe, to students. So there won't be an age restriction on those. So to keep mindful of, it's not just employees, but the latest change in state policy opens it up to that group.
Thank you.
Alice, could you address the last question from iPhone about coming to campus using an Uber? Should they come directly to Joyce and Walton to get their key, or should they go directly to their residence hall and drop off their stuff?
Well, so you won't be able to get into your residence hall without checking in first. So we ask that you come to Joyce and Walton, get screened first, and then check in, and then go to the brick.
Question from Christine: no spring break, just like no mid-semester fall break. Nazareth almost had to shut down because they had a short fall break around the weekend. Too many people went home and brought back the virus back to campus. So it's not ideal, but what we've seen in best practices on other campuses, we aren't going to be running spring break. We're instead relying on the 2 rejuvenation days and snow days as needed, or as appropriate.
And Mark, I think you had kind of touched on, it says spring sports. You had talked about there's the hope for all sports this semester.
And our athletic staff have been pulling up their hair just to figure out how we schedule all this and the facilities. Right now, the intent is to still do it with starting in March and practices on February 8th. But it very much hinges on how we get off to a good start and what happens with our other counterparts in the state. We anticipate certain teams in our league will opt not to play at all. My guess right now is Hartwick will be one of the Empire 8 teams that'll just not do it. And so maybe a more limited schedule, even if we're playing games. So we've got to be prepared for that mindset.
And I know there's a question about an engineering course. I'm not sure, because I know we don't have an engineering faculty member here, or Dean Dobie, but Mark, any idea about Engineering 360? I think that's the second time it was in here.
Yeah, I encourage, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, encourage any questions about the classes. Students should direct those to their faculty members, directly to the instructor.
Or to the assistant dean in your school.
Oh, and here's one right now, just students be able to pick up packages during the quarantine period.
That's a great question. So students will not be able to pick up packages during the quarantine period as they need to remain in their building. However, if you send a perishable box, or there is something that is critical, like a laptop, we will be happy to deliver those. We would just ask the student to contact me, and I will organize that and get that to the student. But we can't deliver all packages during this quarantine period.
And Tamara, we had a few questions too. If the doctor is more than 60 miles away and I need to have an appointment to see her or him, or there's some religious considerations, they should ask those questions to you in terms of navigating.
Yeah, please just contact me. Again, we're just trying to keep track of who's leaving our campus. Those type of obligations, we can make arrangements for. So please just contact me.
Mark, there's a question about University 101 Common Ground. I'm not sure if it's being offered in person or online this semester, or maybe there's a mix depending on the course.
I believe it's entirely in person. So, and stay tuned. We have some training sessions for the staff and faculty that are facilitators this coming week, but I believe all of them are going to be in person.
Okay.
I see we have two hands raised as well. And so the first one I see says Leanne. If you'd like to answer or ask a question, I think you're already unmuted.
Okay, thanks. It's actually Leanne's husband.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you explain a little bit more? I think when the students go down, it takes about 4 days until they get their test. And if they test negative, what exactly are they allowed to do between then and when classes actually start? And can you kind of explain the rationale for why you don't just start classes remotely since you have all the kids there? Seems like a long time to, forgive me for saying do nothing while they wait for class to start.
Yeah, good question. The feedback from faculty and from students was the in-person was a better learning model than online. So our group debated whether we should start online first, like we did in the fall. And we just thought that the overall learning experience would be more impactful. But it's a great question, and it got some consideration.
Okay.
I see also a hand from owner. So if like to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
The question I have is, if a student was attending the university last semester but wants to stay home next semester, what are the steps that will have to be taken for the spring semester?
Talk to your assistant dean and advisor in your particular college or school. You want to look through what options. They're not as plentiful online as they are in person. So to make sure you can put together an academic program that you'll be satisfied with on that online delivery. What's your home college or school?
Business.
Okay, so Chelsea Ames and Mark Lewis, our assistant dean and dean, would be great people to talk to.
Okay.
Alexandria, not to put you on the spot again, but had your hand been raised a second time, or are you good now?
Actually, I was wondering if you guys are accepting test results from the at-home testing kits that are available to be shipped out. I'm asking because it's often like it's a more reasonable price if you do have to pay for it, and that could be a better option for some students.
Great question.
I believe so, but we'll check with our wellness center.
Okay. It's the only one that my insurance would cover. I live in Hornell, and all of the places that I called are only doing 50 tests a day, and there are no available tests without going to urgent care, which will not be covered without a doctor's note.
Alexandria, hi. Nice to see you again. It's Mike Kozlowski. Can I ask you a question about the test? I assume since it's an at-home test that you send off the results to a lab, correct?
Correct. I just got it today, and basically you stick it up your nose and then send it off the same day.
Much information. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, as long as it comes from a reputable lab, I'm sorry, we will accept the results.
Okay, awesome. I found it on the New York State
That's
website.
fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's a PCR-based test, which is the preferred approach. So thanks for asking. There were a couple of questions on the bookstore and if it's open over this coming weekend.
I think someone else in the chat said they called earlier and they will be closed. Yeah, Carl. Carl said he called the bookstore and they will be closed.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
Somebody had also asked about the Saxon Inn being open, and without me looking, and maybe it was already answered in there, but I believe it was tomorrow it reopens.
That's my understanding, John. I would encourage anyone who is interested in that they should double check me, but I believe I heard the date was tomorrow.
It is 8 o'clock. Oh, I think, does owner still have his hand raised, or was that, do you have a new hand? Second hand.
No, we're good.
Oh, great. Okay. Mark, would you like, should we wrap it up? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe just a benediction, a quick benediction.
Sure.
Thank you all.
I'll forego that for you.
Thank you all for joining. We're looking forward to having you back soon. Any relevant questions between now and then, you've seen who the folks on the team are to reach out to by email. Thank you for being willing to work with us to navigate this. It was a challenge in the fall. We rose collectively to the challenge. A lot of places weren't able to do it. For example, most of the Ivies weren't able to do it. Even this year, UNC has already folded up their tent, just like they did in the fall, and said we're gonna be entirely online. You might have seen an article at Stanford. They were hoping to get their first years and second years all back in person. They had 40 cases that showed up largely in their graduate school of business, and they folded up their tent and said, we're staying online. So it's to our credit, but it's going to be tougher the next few months because we're more indoors than we were in September, October, and the virus is more prevalent. So we're just going to have to stay on our toes and keep working together. And let's do it. So
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks to those great
everybody
I see in here as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.